4 million pounds of fresh produce. That's how much one local charity has rescued from area fields in the past 2 years alone. Plentiful Harvest isn't just a successful local story. Now the charity is assisting food banks right across southwestern Ontario. You might be surprised. Joining us with the story are Michelle Molesky.
Well, Jim, as I'm sure you know, you drive a little bit around the county and you'll see fields are brimming right now with late summer, early fall produce like tomatoes, melons, and corn. Farmers here are so generous, Plentiful Harvest has more produce than they can possibly use. So, the agency is sharing the wealth. When Laferty Farms has too much of a good thing, there's one Windsor charity ready, willing, and able to take the fresh produce off their hands.
See, when we get food, you can't turn it down.
Germain Tessier and his wife will take this load of watermelons wherever they're needed, around Windsor to Walpole Island, even Sarnia.
People's got to eat, and people can afford those. When you see people very happy, you give them food, you want to go back. Don't thank me, thank Mr. Laferty. Call him.
What would you do without Laferty's?
Well, I tell you what, this whole community would suffer because he gives that much of himself and his farm.
Today, Laferty's watermelon harvest is ready to come off and go to the community kitchen.
The kids at the community kitchen are right this minute cutting it up, repackaging it, and getting it out to the food banks and individuals and families that need it.
The watermelon will be funneled to one of the local food banks, wrapped up for Meals on Wheels, or frozen for another day.
This time of year is a time when there's a lot available.
But there's more on the cutting board than needed in Windsor, Essex.
There's so many people that are hurting for fresh produce up the highway. You know, you put out the call. This is an amazing community. Maurice Trucking and Lakeside Logistics. They donated their trucks, their fuel. So we were able to push up over 100,000 pounds of food up the highway.
Food banks in London, Waterloo, and Toronto all had fresh Windsor-grown produce to hand out to their clients.
30,000 pounds is quite a lot to get all at once, and in fact, you know, the bounty was so much that we actually shared it with Second Harvest in Toronto as well as Hamilton because it was too much for us to handle at one time.
Had you heard of Windsor's Plentiful Harvest before?
I personally hadn't, but I'm very aware of them now, which is great.
Sarah Anderson adds the recent shipment of produce has spurred new talks about having the trucking available on standby for the next time there's a big bumper crop of produce that Windsor can't handle and wants to help the rest of our friends in southwestern Ontario.
Such a worthwhile program, Michelle. Any way for viewers to help?
That's a great question, Jim. And actually, just like the produce, this is a great time of year for Plentiful Harvest. They're hosting their annual gala on Friday, September 19th at the Caboto Club. Plentiful Harvest doesn't get any direct government funding, so this is their once-a-year fundraiser time when they get the money that they need to make sure that the food keeps moving across the region.
Another one of those stories that takes place quietly behind the scenes.
It does, and they don't want to be thanked. They kind of are like, well, focus it on Mr. Laferty, and Mr. Laferty is like, focus it on Plentiful Harvest. I love stories like this. Great story to be able to.
Thanks for sharing it tonight, Michelle Molesky.